Hey guys, this podcast is brought to you by Pawtion, 100% natural Australian-made single protein dog food company. Go to pawtion.com.au, use Muscle Talks 25 for 25% off your first order, and Muscle Talks 10 for 10% off all continued orders. Primabolics is another sponsor of ours, Australia's favourite supplement company, proteins, pre-workouts, and more. Will's also got a book. Maybe look out for that. Go to primabolics.com.au and use code MuscleTalks15 for a generous 15% off your order. I guess I can be a very qualified personal trainer if I just use AI.
So here's my whole thing with coaching, right?
Yeah.
You'll get me on a rant here. Coaching, regardless if you're a school teacher, whether you're a bodybuilding coach, whether you're a group fitness instructor, whatever it is, okay? It's a very personable job. And I have a lot of my social media is driven towards this nowadays. And I think if coaching was just about the training program and the diet, none of us would have a job anymore because apps would take over. A lot of the study that I do isn't necessarily from the fitness industry. I learn a lot from sporting coaches and things like that, because I think they're phenomenal at establishing relationships with elite level athletes, which I think is something that and I was always taught to play to your strengths. So if I'm on social media, I'm not going to be able to compete with the big jacked up influencer guys. So for me, it's I know I can communicate quite well and I can write quite well, so I just sort of play to my strengths, and it's worked.
Has a lot to say about health, fitness, and coaching. His thoughts. Coach and bodybuilding judge measures metrics. Does anyone measure metrics? If you ever question, does he train himself? Yes, he does. Once a high-level basketballer, strongman, powerlifter, though not the best at it. Well, that's what he says. Been a coach from 2006, body composition for competitors and the Gen Pop. Please help me welcome Richard Physique Code Collins. How are you, mate?
Good. Thank you for having me, man. What a descriptive intro you got there.
I could have gone forever, mate. Trust me. Sometimes I think I could do a whole podcast on people's intros. But it's look. How do you? All right, let's go with something from the because I like to not go always on script. Let's talk about powerlifting, strongman, because I don't want to be rude. You don't look like a strong man, but no. Then again, you probably went on a big diet spree, and you were once 140 kilos, and now, how much do you weigh now?
About 78.
All right, mate. Listen, between me and you, let's keep that strongman bit a little bit on the quiet. No, but tell us about strongman and powerlifting. And not that good at it.
Yeah. So I did do a little bit of Olympic lifting through year 11 and year 12. Okay. Really enjoyed it. I've just always had an enjoyment in strength sport.
Yep.
Regardless of whether it's bodybuilding, whether it's powerlifting, strongman, Olympic lifting, whatever it is. I've 12 years ago, I went through a couple seasons of strongman when they had the under 80 kilo class, which they got rid of. So obviously some of the numbers just got a little bit too much for me on the minimums, so I stopped doing it. But look, it was always something just for me to learn. I was never doing it to try to be super competitive or anything like that. It was, for me, it was just new skills to learn, to experience. Same with powerlifting as well. I learned so much about, training technique and just strength training in general from doing powerlifting. So, when I was doing those, it was over a period of about 4 years where I was sort of chopping and changing between the two. But it was more of a learning lesson for me as a coach, more so than me trying to dominate the sports world of it. I think genetically, I probably am not the best for strongman, and then powerlifting. Obviously, there's multiple weight classes, and I had a great time with it. And I got stronger, which is was the goal, and just being able to learn out of it. So it was really fun. But yeah, for me, it's always been, I've always been coach first. So a lot of the things that I've done have been, out of just the hunger to want to learn more, and sort of help clients and athletes get better at what they're doing.
You mentioned the word a few times there, and like I said, learning. So when you talk about technique, what explain to me a powerlifting technique. Like, let's talk maybe something we all do in common as bodybuilders as well, is the bench press, bench lift, yeah. Right? Are we talking about, it's not just sheer, besides the mental game, it's preparing for the lift on the time? What is technique? Explain technique.
Yeah. So again, like when we're looking at different outcomes and different goals, like you may, in powerlifting, the goal with the bench press is to try to get your body mechanically in a position where the range of motion is quite short, which will allow you to lift more weight. So you generally use the more arched up back, your feet are under your hips a little bit more. Whereas if we're looking at it from a hypertrophy point of view, while that still will work, you may find that having the back not quite as arched will actually allow you to have a bigger range of motion, which you can put the chest in more of a stretch position, and it becomes less of a, we use less muscles. We may use a little bit more of the pecs, and that could be more beneficial for hypertrophy work, for like bodybuilders or physique athletes. So just like for different outcomes, there's, how you bench press for powerlifting may be slightly different to how you bench press for bodybuilding. So it was just, for me, it was like sort of learning about those things, obviously learning the rules of the sport too, because powerlifting has specific rules with the bench press that aren't going to be applicable to for regular gym goers. So yeah, so just things like that, and then just learning how to use the body in that, how to position yourself, how to get the most out, to get the most weight up, and then those sort of things. So it's really interesting, especially coming from a background where, it was, traditionally you're taught the bench press not to press as a power lifter. So it was just really cool to be able to learn, the different techniques, and, because when you coach people, the more tools you have in your toolbox, the more effective the coach you can be. So if somebody's coming in wanting to get as strong as possible, maybe X technique is better. But if somebody's coming in wanting to maximize their pec growth, maybe Y technique is better. So there's just more tools in the tool shed to have. So I think it was really beneficial for me. And, even to this day, I still chop and change depending on the client's goal.
Hey guys, I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who has subscribed, who is following us on all platforms, but especially here on YouTube. And if you're listening to us on Spotify, please, if you could do us a big favor, which helps us reach more people, get better, bigger, greater. We've already had some great guests anyway. Everyone's been a treat. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you're notified every week a new podcast that is launched. And I just want to say a big thank you. But again, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and enjoy watching Muscle Talks podcasts. I also I think I saw it on your IG I could get it wrong. I hope not, or up on your stories, because you had a lot going on this week with quick Q&A time, right? And I've got one of your Q&As here, so, or up on your stories. But I want to ask you a question. How long does it take for someone to, let's say someone says to you, I want to compete in X amount of time. And I won't put a time on it. I want you to put a time on it. But you look at them and you say, look, we've really got to bring in your tricep, or we've got to bring in, I need you to back off on this, but I need to bring in your front delt. How quick can someone, and we're not talking about a beginner, but how quick can someone in the game alter their body to bring something up, a muscle up? We know how stubborn a muscle can be. It actually should take years. But how long would you say you'd give someone to say, for us to go into this comp, we need to bring this up? What time frame should people look at?
It really, like, you're going to hate this answer, but it really,
I probably will.
It's really contextual. Like, genetics is going to play such a big role in that. And, people don't like hearing that, but genetics plays, is arguably the biggest factor in physique development. And there are some people that, potentially they haven't trained properly and it can be a little bit faster. There's people that are just able to build muscle a little bit easier and it may be a little bit faster. But, you can look at anywhere from 6 months to 2 years, depending on how much muscle needs to be brought up, those sort of things. But like for most of the time, like if somebody is also, it depends if they're enhanced or not as well. You can generally bring up a little bit quicker if the athlete's enhanced. But for most people, it's a genetical factor. And you see it sometimes where people can do it in one block of training, in one push phase, which could be anywhere from 12 to 20 weeks.
Wow.
But then, and that's obviously if it's only a small amount of muscle that needs to be brought up. It could also, be something that's it's a bigger issue. Could be, something like the back, which is seen in majority of poses. So that's an area that really needs to be developed in bodybuilding. And, sometimes with that, it could be, you could be looking at 18 months, 2 years, depending on, how much muscle actually needs to be put on. But it's such a large genetical factor. Like I've seen people stack muscle on quite quickly, within one to two push phases. So anywhere from 12 to 20 weeks. And I've also seen it, have to take up to 2 to 3 years.
Okay. And my next question, which I think was up on your stories, again, we're not on script here. I think someone mentioned competing and having loose skin.
Yeah.
Right. And my question I want to add to it, because I've never competed and sometimes I feel like I want to, but what's stopping me now, which I feel like, what the fuck's going on? Because I have so much vanity over my body that's the only reason I train, is to look the best I can. Like, I mean, to present myself, not for anyone else, but for myself. But then again, if I'm feeling confident in a good physique, then I suppose it will benefit people around me, I guess, without me being egotistical, because that's not what I'm about. It's more about turning up my best. But how do you get judged? Because let's say someone is done an amazing job, quite muscular, vascular, they've done everything right. I think, they've come down in weight. What about some of the natural imperfections in one's body? Like me, I've got these fucking fat deposits on my body. What the fuck? And they're hopping everywhere. And you know what's funny? It depends what I'm eating at the time to how much they want to protrude in some ways. So I'm kind of studying my diets. And someone said to me, maybe when you rip up for a comp, they probably would diminish because you're so depleted. But what I'm asking the question is, do the judges look at people's imperfections? Do they go or do they stick to the muscle quality, the definition, the muscle bit? Like, I'm trying to say, do they actually look? Because someone, like I said, could have a scar or could have like a fat deposit on their quad. So even though you're going to hit your quad and it's going to look amazing, teardrop, rip, but there's this fucking fat deposit that's disturbing the actual aesthetic look and you can't help it. Does that mean I'm doomed? I should never compete. And people with loose skin should never compete, or whatever we do. What does this mean?
Yeah, I mean, it'll come down to the level of it. It'll also come down to your overall presentation. Obviously, some people can have it a little bit worse than others. It comes down to, who's there on the day that you're being judged against as well. Of course.
So, yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it does come into play. Like another one that we constantly get asked is, like tattoos. Yeah. And, if it does hide muscle definition, it can be, it's not that the tattoo itself is bad. It's just more like, what does the actual package of the physique look like? Because people have had tattoos and looked absolutely incredible on stage and won. But then there's other people that maybe it hasn't helped their physique and their total package presentation, and it may hurt them. But yeah, like, look, I mean, with, like you said, I think you nailed it where you said, when you diet down, will fat deposits leave? And I mean, yeah, the idea is that you have no fat on your body when you're, on stage. So you would hope that that would be gone. But I mean, you do have to look at the entire package, and especially if it's close between two people, you generally sometimes have to look at flaws. And if two people look amazing, then you have to, rather than say, oh, they both look great, it's like you need to find a way to put one in front of the other. So who has the least amount of flaws? And it can come into it. But again, right, it all depends on what the level of it is, and what they look like next to the person. Like it can mark you down, definitely. But at the same time, if you still have clearly a better physique and package muscularity wise, condition wise, then it may not. So you're not doomed. You're definitely not doomed. And a lot of the time it does just come down to it's hard to. I always say this thing with judging bodybuilding is like it's really hard to just look at somebody like individually and then say you can give them feedback, but it's going to be very generalized. But then when two people are standing next to each other, then it becomes a lot easier. And yeah, and then it sort of comes down to that. So it can be seen as a flaw potentially if things are very, very close, depending on how, like with loose skin, like how much loose skin there is or whatnot. But when two athletes are very close, you generally look for, like in muscularity and condition and whatnot, you still do have to try to find who has the least amount of flaws. Because especially when you get to the elite level, like everybody looks amazing. And it's hard to decipher. So when they're next to each other, you sort of have to look back and be like, well, is this individual's this muscle on this guy stands out to me, which means the balance is a little bit off. Because we want to see the entire physique like as a flowing. We don't want to see any weak points, or we don't want to see any like overpowering. So those sort of things there, and it always does come down to who they're standing next to. But yeah, look, it can be a flaw, but it doesn't mean it's always going to be a flaw. It literally will come down to who else is standing there on the day and what the total overall package from one person to the next looks like.
Yeah, I've like a light bulb went off not so long ago when, I mean, I'm not that I'm a late bloomer to bodybuilding. I've really stayed in my lane for years. Bodybuilding's, I have this amazing love affair with it, but I never cared what anyone did. I never even followed bodybuilders. I didn't need posters on my wall. I mean, be sure when I was a teenager, I might have had Arnie up there, or I might have had, like a big bodybuilder on a Harley Davidson with his beautiful brunette behind him and he's riding down the highway, stuff like that I've enjoyed, but and how it made me feel and be around. And sometimes some mates, it was like a slight competition with my mates around me who were bodybuilding, but we weren't competing. It was like we just, he turned up much better this summer. He looks better on the beach, the prick. I'm going to have to come back better next year. Like, you know what I mean? That was the kind of the competition we did. But it made me realize it's not all size. And I think that's the misconception that people are believing, and I had too, that you had to be this big motherfucker up on stage. I've got to start not swearing, Chris, as soon as we get into as soon as we start making money on YouTube. So I think we could swear because we're still not making money on YouTube, so I will keep swearing. But having said that, yeah, because I think that's a misconception a lot of people are having is they've tapped out thinking this guy or this girl is too big, but it's not about big. It's about proportion, symmetrical. It's the design. It's the illusion. And can you come in with the hourglass looking like this amazing hourglass and let the biggest guy next to you lose because of you? And I guess that's why the Lee Lambradas and the Sean Rays and, Rick Asparis, like, what I'm trying to say to you, some of these guys that weren't the biggest, that didn't, and when you look back, you even say to yourself, fuck, they weren't big. But the reason they won is because on stage, in person, they just had it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely. No, 100% agree. And, one of the big things is just making sure that you have a tremendous package, like overall package that you go on stage. Like, especially at the highest levels when you have, you want to have the least amount of flaws on stage. And you want to make the judges have to, find no way to pick somebody better than you. And in bodybuilding nowadays, the size is obviously Very, very, very important, especially with the inclusion of classic physique now, which is more about the, symmetry, flow, and whatnot. But, you look at it, and many, many times, just recently at the NPC Nationals in Melbourne, I think James Newcomb, who's from here in Perth, he won the pro card. He was about maybe just shy of 90 kilos on stage, and I think I would make an argument that he was probably the lightest guy, if not the second lightest guy on stage.
Wow.
He was in the overall against a really, really big dude from Melbourne who looked like amazing. Just absolute mass monster. And, so it does happen where some of the smaller guys can win. But again, it just comes down to making sure you have that nice X frame, making sure that, the judges can't find flaws on you. And if, you can do that to a really good standard, it's not necessarily, going to be the biggest guy wins. It's not just the biggest person on stage. You have to have that, you have to have that package that looks flawless. But I think, in bodybuilding, when you have two guys that get on stage, if both of them have that flawless physique, the bigger guy more often than not is going to win. But at the same time, if you're just big for the sake of being big, you leave yourself, with imbalances or maybe conditions a little bit off or whatever it is, you're leaving the door open for the smaller guys to come in and take higher placings than you that have, that really well balanced and conditioned physique.
I've also been watching on the sidelines that the word conditioning, and sometimes, I don't know, you can correct me. Like I said, I'm just a spectator. I'm the person that asks the questions everyone wants to ask. When I hear conditioning, sometimes I feel people get to the point where they're so vascular, so ripped. And I think sometimes they can be applauded for that. But then I think to myself, like, is that bodybuilding? In some ways, because to me, bodybuilding is, I presume muscular, and then preserving the muscularity. But some are coming in, even women who are in open, that don't look like they're in open, but because they go in open to become so vascular. So because maybe they can't do bikini, maybe they can't do wellness, but they go in the open. And so I'm just saying, are we pushing the line on that sometimes? Do you think it's being pushed a bit? I don't know. I'm just throwing questions out there.
Yeah, I think
where I'm coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. I think pending division, obviously, some of the divisions aren't requiring that level of conditioning. And if they do come in that conditioning, like you'll see in, bikini and the new fit model division, and sometimes in wellness where people come in too conditioned for the division.
Yeah.
And it can happen. But I think, where you're getting at there is are we sacrificing, maybe too much fullness for condition?
Yeah.
Getting stage. And I think you need to be, especially in like open bodybuilding, you need to be very, very conditioned, classic physique. Like if you're not in great conditioning, you're going to struggle to make the top three. Like that's just how it is these days.
Okay.
But at the same time, like it can go two ways, because some people can sort of look what we would call flat or depleted. And maybe it just doesn't give them that round popping look that they also require with that conditioning. And that can be a case where you're 100% true, where it's like sometimes people are pushing it too much and not able to fill out. And that can be an issue. But at the same time, you can have people that are, saying, oh, I'm going to play the size game, and then not get super conditioned. And that's another, situation like we were just speaking about previously, where like if there's a bigger guy that is, not quite in as good as conditioning as what he could be, he's not displaying the muscularity and the separation that they would require in that division. So I think you do need to be quite conditioned, but I think at the same time, like you can't do it at the cost of looking flat and whatnot. The other thing with it as well is like there's a lot of people that maybe just don't have the muscle mass in the first place.
Okay. Yeah.
And then when they do get conditioned, it does make them look quite depleted. And we're just sort of,
I've seen that.
Yeah, they're just sort of getting a little bit of a reality check of how much muscle they actually have when they're lean. And that can come into it too. So, But I think the more muscular you just start developing like deeper cuts when you're getting, the person that's got, 10 kilo or 7 kilos of fat on them at 60 kilos isn't going to look nearly as lean as the person that is 7 kilos of fat on them at 110 kilos. Like there's just more muscle, so the lines are going to get deeper and whatnot. So you have that aspect to it too. So yeah, look, I think you do need to get the conditioning, but I think, you also need that high level of muscle to make the conditioning, have your physique looking at a point where you can get those deep cuts, because you just won't get them without having the right amount of muscle mass.
Yeah, because the thing is, like I said, I'm learning so much about it. Like it's fascinating. It is literally a science game. It's such a science game. I don't think like anyone realizes the science in it, which you do. I guess you guys. But when I see, let's say, C-Bum or any of the, even back then, the guys in the 90s when they did a vacuum pose or whatever it was. But I see sometimes on stage ribs. I see people's ribs, and I get it not concerns me like I'm concerned. I'm just wondering, when I see the ribs, where the other guys, it's mostly their obliques and it's mostly abs, and they've left there's no show of their ribs. Like these guys have conditioned so carefully structured that you ain't seeing skeletal, whatever I'm trying to find the word for. And I think sometimes we just got to be careful, because I don't look. I said, when I say be careful, because I'm seeing it in relation to conditioning, and I see people winning or seeing people doing, and I'm seeing their rib cage, and to me that's not muscle. That's a rib cage. That's not obliques. They're not obliques there. You know what I mean? I don't know. Have you noticed that at times? I don't know.
I mean, it does happen. And
Yeah.
the thing with bodybuilding
Yeah.
is like you can only award the winner of who's the best on the day.
Yep.
So,
Gotcha.
if we're
Gotcha. Yeah, no, true.
Yeah. So if we deal with divisions where maybe nobody's quite hit the mark, you still have to pick the person that is closest to the mark.
Got it.
Right. But a lot of that also is just coming back down to, when we're seeing ribs and whatnot, is like just like I said earlier, if the more muscular you are, you look leaner at higher body fat percentages. So
yes,
your level of body fat to get those lines, getting peeled to the bone, you're gonna see all the separation that you need to see, but you're still gonna look really full. And I think, so like the less muscular individuals may have to get the right conditioning, they have to find the right balance where they don't look skinny versus still hitting the right conditioning. And I think the more muscular you are, the easier that is to do. But yeah, I mean, you generally aren't going to see that at elite levels, just because the level of muscularity is going to be quite high. But in the amateur ranks, it is, and people just sort of competing and just starting out, or maybe don't quite have the muscularity yet. You will see that, and you will see, time and time again, just divisions of athletes where it's like maybe not everybody has the right muscularity. So you still have to go with, who's the closest to the criteria.
No, I agree. I guess, like I said, I did. Like I said, I haven't even gone into the script yet. But I think the thing is, I agree with everything you said. The best on the day, how you turn up, imperfections, not this. But I think sometimes the conditioning is like, how far can they go to get a delt to pop? And sometimes it's such an extreme just to fucking get a delt to pop because there's no delt. You know what I mean? And I see that sometimes, and I think kudos to them being on stage, but sometimes I think it's up to the coach to be talking about this and to be also policing our stage. So we have got amateurs going on there competing against proper amateurs, and maybe saying to someone, listen, don't worry about 2025. I know you're keen. I got it. I'm with you. But how about 2026? How about, like, I'm just saying, I think we all need to protect the sport, or else it's just going to be a pageant up there. You know what I mean? Like, we just got to, because it has become, if you, like, let's look at beauty contest. Maybe you can get into a beauty contest, but I can't. No, what I'm saying is you need a certain chin line, certain jawline. You've got a certain look, certain eyes, hairline, structure. That's a beauty contest. Guys, male, female. In this one, anyone can register and get on stage, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're very accepting. Everybody. I just think sometimes to make bodybuilding great, as everyone keeps talking about it, is to also ensure we're putting bodybuilders on there. People like they've started 6 months ago or a year ago, and their coach is like, it depends on the coach, but I think just we need to be a bit realistic, because that's my opinion. I didn't have it on my script, and you're a coach, and I feel like I can ask you the questions. You know what I mean?
So I'm always in two minds about this. This is a really fun topic, right?
Yeah, it
so
is. Yeah, go for it.
There's two ways you can look at this. And I think from the first way to look at it is, I would agree. I think there is definitely a level that you shouldn't get on stage until you're at a specific point of muscularity, or, you're not going to look out of place on stage. I 100% agree with that. And I think there are far too many people that are getting on stage that potentially, like you said, could have had a year or two more to get themselves looking a little bit more like they belong on stage. 100% agree with that. On the other hand, if we only did that, the sport wouldn't be where it is today. It wouldn't be. And when we look at it from a sporting point of view, like, bodybuilding is becoming more mainstream, which is the goal, right? We want more people in the sport. We want more people doing it. We want more people. So, like, at the end of the day, it's like, I always have a thing where I ask my clients and be like, what does success look like to you? And if it's winning, then we're going to go, okay, cool. Well, you probably are 3 or 4 years off of growing. So we're going to do that. There are some people that want to get on stage and get a benchmark physique so that they have something to try to beat in the next time, and like that. And like, so you gotta, from a coach's point of view, you got to look at what the athlete's goal is to it. And what they want to get out of it. And I think, any good coach is going to make sure that their client doesn't look out of place. But at the same time, any good coach is also going to be there to help get a client from where they are to where they want to be. So if their client is saying, I want to win the pro card, then you go, okay, well, you're a ways off that. So we're going to need to, start the process of getting
a pro card. Wow.
Yeah. But if, it's a fine goal to have, but it's going to be a long-term goal. But if somebody's goal is like, I've loved bodybuilding and I've always, wanted to do this, and I want to, push myself to get to where I want to get to. And they're at a point where they may not win, but, they're there to challenge themselves and get themselves, and they're not going to look out of place. That is success to that client. And our job as a coach is to help a client get from where they are to where they want to be. And if that's the case, then it's not the end of the world. But I think, if we only, there's that whole mentality of like, only the top 5 bodybuilders look like bodybuilders, and they're the only ones that should be, on stage. And I think, if everybody used that mentality, the sport would be nowhere near, the level of what it is today. So as much as people get agitated with it, I think, having more people in it and having these, less muscular divisions coming in, and a lot of the other shows with much less muscular criteria, I think it's, it's allowing the sport to grow and be popularized, which I think from coaches is a good thing. For business, it's a great thing. And
there's a business aspect, of course.
Yeah. And it's nice to see athletes, sort of more normalizing it, I guess. And, wanting to be interested and go in and change their body composition and all of these sort of things. So there's definitely two sides to it. And I can completely understand both of them and where they both come from. So, it's one of those, for me, it's like, it is what it is. It's, I think for me, it's about, when I look at it, it's like, are they going to look out of place? No. Great. Okay. Well, are they going to, what is their goal out of it? If I can help somebody achieve their goal, then I'm going to do it. But, at the same time, we also have to have that realistic, conversation with them that it's like, look, if your goal was to get on stage and look the best you've ever looked, we can do that. If your goal was to win the pro card, then we probably should spend a little bit more time growing. And so everybody's version of success, like every athlete's version of success, can be a little bit different. And I think that from a coach's point of view, that's pretty important to take into consideration as well.
Look, I agree. I really, like I said, I do applaud the people that go on stage. I think it takes so much guts, the dieting, the preparation to get. I'm in awe of those people, even the ones that I love watching. Firstly, an underdog, and I love watching someone that I see they're invested up there, even if they come last, but they're acting with a smile and they're invested. I love it. Actually, I think they're doing something a step further than me, that they're up there. I'm in the crowd watching them. So I respect them. I do respect them, because I can pretend I could be better than them. I could pretend, I'm not saying me personally, we could pretend, but they did it. So how about you get over your fucking self? They did it and they're on stage. So I do applaud them. I think what I'm trying to kind of say is it's like, it's, I think, like I said, it is business. I know business. I know where the registrations come from. I know a lot of stuff, but I think, I guess you just want to make sure, like I said, soccer has certain stages, and you don't want to go watch, Aston Villa play, but they got the guy that had the most, like, he just paid his way in and he's the right back for Aston Villa. And you go, oh, wow. But there's a soccer competition for him, I guess.
Yeah, so I agree.
Yeah, I think there's a soccer competition for him where it progresses. Like I said, maybe, I don't know. Like I said to you, maybe everyone, again, this is off the top of my head. I'm thinking like maybe everyone, the federations need to say, need to ask you coaches questions, so they know, like, it's like knowing who's coming to the competition, and maybe setting up stages where those people together are competed to be the best, not to lose against someone that looks the best. Does that make sense? Like, there's so many ways to create divisions, and then that person won because we know there's novice, but novice can go in anything they want. You can register whatever you want. It's your choice after. You got to do novice first and then go for your life. But like I said, it'd be good to, what I think maybe is, I don't know, I'm just daydreaming a bit right now, but creating where, you got a chance, I guess. And you're seeing it as a sport that you're lining up the perfect division. But anyway, that's my story. Who knows?
Absolutely.
Yesterday you posted on IG. Okay, this is going to be a long one, so let's start with it. All right, and then you give us your explanation.
Go for it.
In 2 years, so many trainers are going to wake up and think about hours they spent making content, fancy reels, etc., and realizing they actually created nothing. They did nothing to build themselves up, their business, or add value in any way. Coaches spend ungodly amounts of time creating content and will realize how little it matters. The metrics social media platforms show you aren't metrics that matter to you or your business. They're metrics to make you want to see social media more. So what metrics matter? How many people would turn to and hear you talk? How many people would purchase your coaching? You didn't need thousands and thousands of followers and views on your reels. You need to build trust and add value. Keep an eye on the metrics that matter. Tell us more. Tell us more. I think I learned something myself. I think, Chris, I hope you learned something too while I read that, but go ahead.
Yeah, look, I think that might have come out of a podcast a couple of years ago.
Yep.
And I will, just to get the author of that, I will have to remember who said it. I'll have to go back and have a look. But it's a really good point, because I think we're in a time right now where, like, the social media metrics that they show you are designed to keep you on Instagram. Like, they're showing you what helps them.
Fuck,
right?
Tell me about it.
If you're getting a million downloads right? Like that's a dopamine hit for you.
I need help.
You know, but the point that I really liked about that is I do a fair bit of mentoring for coaches, and it's really interesting for me to see that like people are looking at success on how many followers they have or how many downloads they have, or how many how many views their reels get. And it's like those are there to, if you get a really good download rate, or you get a whole bunch of reels or a whole bunch of views on your reels, like, is that helping your business? And I'm not saying, like, a bunch of people message me about that. And I'm like, I'm not saying don't do it, because, they're up. I mean, it's crazy to think that there's not value doing marketing, but it's more so about the fact that it's like there's no depth, and people, you can have 500,000 followers and be getting, 80,000 views on your reels, but nothing is converting to business. Right. So, it's really important for people to remember that, like, your followers and your views on Instagram aren't going to necessarily correlate to your business success. And I think nowadays we have a lot of people that are trying to correlate the two. And, mentoring a lot of trainers, I know some trainers that have 100,000 Instagram followers that are struggling to make money. I also know people that have 5,000 Instagram followers that are running $250,000 businesses. So, it's not don't do it. It's that, you need to not, it's not trying to push, oh, how many views am I getting on my story? Okay, my business is getting successful. It's like it's like, it's about how much you can connect with people, how many leads you're getting, how many leads you're converting, which Instagram will never show you. But the metrics on Instagram are there for keeping you on Instagram. And yes, they can in times correlate to business success. Like, I'm not crazy. I know that's 100% true. Because the bigger audience you have, the more potential clients you can have. However, they're not as strongly correlated as what people would think. And I'm seeing a lot of people these days that are trying to create content that they see other people do that is getting them a lot of downloads, but it's like there's no substance to it. There's no depth to it. They're not going to connect with people. So it's probably not going to be some of the best work to convert people to clients. And yeah, it's an interesting, it was a really cool quote. And I thought it was really interesting how much that is actually range true. And when you see people marketing and it's like, oh, well, people are just kind of copying other people on what does well, in terms of downloads, but it's like, it's not necessarily going to be building trust and buy-in to your potential clients. Like the amount of times you'll see, and I use this one as an example, and I know everyone does, but it's true, where it's like we went through that period with the single arm cable row lat pull down, where everybody made a video on how to do it and why it's so good. But it's like, if your target market is, moms that are struggling to get into the gym, it's like, are you really helping your business by posting these sort of videos? So I think it's a really cool and interesting topic. And I'm by no means a business coach, but at the same time, I'm also somebody that has trial and errored social media. And I have, I would like to say with my social media, even though I have, 16,000 followers, I don't have 200,000, but I have a very engaged 16,000 followers. And, I can get up to 5 leads a day, with 16,000. Whereas I know people with 100,000 that aren't getting anywhere near that. And it's not necessarily the correlation between how much you're being seen. It's how much value and depth you can add to the people that are seeing it.
Yeah, no, I feel like I was in class right now. I was thinking, should I be writing notes? Honestly, yeah, I think that's something we've tried to understand ourselves. And I think there's a certain, I don't know, maybe you've broken the code, but you're always trying to break the code. And I think you're right. The lazy way to look at it is to believe you need to have 100,000 followers, or you need 1 million followers, or you need to be at 1 million impressions, whatever it is. Then you start focusing on how to try to transact that. But I think as a person, if you're trying to understand business, you're trying to get as much blood out of a brick. So if you only got, like you said, 16,000, what have we got? Nearly 4,000. That we're trying, you could look at us as followers and say, well, they don't have much followers. But when you look at its substance and what we're trying to achieve by, one, not buying followers, two, trying to get followers that are actually engaged is more important. I think that's what people forget, because what we've noticed as well when we do podcasts is that we sometimes, like I said, we've had people that have had like 1 million followers or a lot, and it's literally crickets. And then we've had people, no joke, I've had more engagement with someone having 800 followers. No joke, like they had 800 followers and it went through the roof. And it's, I think those people connect. There's something about connection, and you can bluff it with your numbers, but if you don't have genuine connection or people feeling like they resonate. So like I said, it just depends. And that's why I think for us at the moment, like I said, I don't know what we're doing, if we're doing anything right, but as long as we stick to being genuine, not manipulated by, like you said, certain numbers, and just watching them carefully. And like I said, measuring your metrics, I think that's the smart way to go. But I agree with you. It was something I read, and I'll probably talk to Chris after this about engagement, like you said. And what is it? A mum that wants to know single arm pull downs, or is it a mum that wants to know in the limited time she's got, can she get rid of some of that belly fat, or maybe she wants to lose a few kilos, look nicer in a dress, whatever it is, and even guys. So let's not just talk about
and just on that as well, because I had a bunch of people say like, oh yeah, that's true, but if you have more followers, you have more of an audience. And it's like, yeah, look, I if you're doing it the right way, the bigger the audience you have, the better. Like there's I'm not trying to argue that at all. Like I'm not silly with that. My whole thing with it is like, making sure that, you have an engaged audience is better than real views for coaches. And then if you have an engaged audience and a bigger following, even better. For sure. No one's arguing that. But for me, it's just like, it was just more so a case of like, just doing random things to, just do random things to get as many views as you can. People will follow. If you do, something that's, like, how many times you see like a female coach, male coaches too, actually, I shouldn't say female. This is 100% with male coaches as well. But like you'll find people that'll have like thirst trap videos, males and females. I shouldn't say that. But like you'll have like those videos and people follow because they like looking at the body. They may not be potential customers. You may be getting hundreds of thousands of views, and you may be getting, hundreds of thousands of followers. And it's like, but they don't know what the product you're selling is. They're following for a whole different reason. And it's like, that they're the things that you want to be cautious of, where it's like more audience can be good, but you want the audience to be engaged. And your goal for business is to convert as many of these people as you can to customers. So, it's not saying that big audiences are bad. They're definitely not. They definitely help, but you want to just make sure that, they're all potential customers, and what you're doing is going to help them convert to, help them convert to clients and money at the end of the day, which is the most important metric that you should be looking at over anything else.
Yeah, no, it's like what you're saying. You're saying, if you've got 5,000 followers and 2/3 are engaged, well, you want 10,000 followers, 2/3 engaged. You want 1 million followers, 2/3 engaged. That's the basic what you're trying to do. All you're trying to do is keep that metric correct, keep it, flowing in a sense that you've got 1,000 followers and 2/3 are engaged. You're doing very well.
Yeah. And it's like the old 100,000 followers, but 2,000 downloads or views on your reel. It's like, do the math.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, you know what I mean? It's like, it's not, bought followers don't pay you. So
let me tell you, there's some funny ones. We've seen numbers that don't match up. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's common. But I mean, wow. That's just falling into the algorithm track of, you know, ego.
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
it's nothing to do. Our goal is to make money, right? If your goal is to look a certain way and not make money, then cool, so be it. But I know for me, and I know for a lot of coaches, it's about, making money. So
yeah, 100%. And like sometimes people got to be careful, like you said, about that thirst trap. I think what that can do is affect your branding later on down the track when some serious people want to work with you and they won't, because you've just basically sold yourself out. And like I said, just play the long game.
Yeah,
keep it professional. That's what I think. You got here again on your stories a few Q&A questions that you were answering, so I thought I'd bring one in.
Oh yeah.
By the way, Chris, have a look at Muscle Talks. See if there's any questions in, because I did post it a bit late, and also look at the comments on TikTok and IG, just in case.
Hey, I'm Jamie from Pawtion.
And I'm Steve, Muscle Talks podcast.
And we heard that you guys are very into clean eating for yourselves, so we figured we'd educate you a bit about clean eating for your dogs. That's why Pawtion has decided to partner with Muscle Talks and give you promo code MuscleTalks25 for 25% off your first order at pawtion.com.au. That's pawtion.com.au.
And if you continue ordering through Pawtion, please use Muscle Talks 10, and that gets you, with continued orders, 10% off. We're quite excited to be part of Pawtion. I've got a few dogs running around us just as I talk now. So please support not only good eating for ourselves, but I'm sure you want to promote good eating for your loved one, your pet, your dog. So go to pawtion.com.au and use, for your first order, Muscle Talks 25 to get 25% off your first order, and then continued orders, Muscle Talks 10. So we can answer them. Thoughts on athletes using this one, Metaform, right, to bring up certain muscle, glutes for show day. And you said, I mean, in the enhanced world, it's whatever goes right. If the athlete sees it as a benefit and use it, they're not breaking any rules, I guess. Now, just before we answer that, I had to look up Metaform. So I Googled it. And correct me if I'm wrong, whatever I say from this point on. Because it kind of like will be the next question I'm going to ask soon. Stimulates weight, muscle growth, strength gain quickly, right? Perfect bulking and strength building cycles. Androgenic side effects such as oily skin, acne, seborrhea, which I think I had to look up as well. Seborrhea, whatever it's called. Increase, which is a basic word anyway. Increase facial and body hair. Maybe that explains a lot of things. Growth, scalp hair loss, and virilization may occur. Now, to me, that doesn't sound good. So, are you sure this isn't used for sex change?
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much could have, to an extent, described performance-enhancing drugs there. So, the devil's defined in the dosages. But look, I think the same with all enhancements. If we're competing in an untested federation, it's you're not cheating. So so it is what it is. Like, I think, there's pros and cons to everything. And, I know there's a lot of athletes that will use it for site enhancement. But, if it works for you, it's not breaking any rules, then I'm not going to, you can't sit here and complain about it. That would be the same as complaining about people using, a natural athlete in an untested federation saying, oh, well, they take steroids, that's why they won. And it's like, well, they're allowed to. So
is Metafor a steroid?
Yes.
I'm just asking.
So I'm going to be, I don't use it with clients personally.
No, but what I'm asking, is it, because you said something, but it's a steroid, correct? Oh, sorry, I know it sounds stupid, but
yeah, I do. Yeah. So
I've never heard that I've heard many, but I've never heard that one there. And I was trying to work out, like as you mentioned, in the enhanced world, whatever goes right. So I was thinking, oh, maybe they found a new way on top of steroids.
No, it's been around for a while. But yeah, look, it's just something that can increase fullness in a specific site. It's like by site. So like you'll find in the top ranks, a lot of pro bodybuilders will use it potentially in like smaller muscle groups like the biceps or the rear delts or something like that, just to add a little bit of fullness to it on show day. And I'm gonna say, I'll sit here and say this openly, is like I haven't used it with a client. I'm probably not the most well-versed person to ask about it. So all of my.
But when you say use it to enhance a rear delt, what do you mean? What are you doing to enhance it? What does it do? What do you do with this thing?
Yeah. So my understanding.
Do you swallow it and say rear delts work? Do you inject it and say rear delts work? What is it?
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
So again, this could be completely wrong. This is my understanding.
Hey, we've been wrong. We've been wrong for 2 years, buddy. We've been wrong for 2 years.
I don't like, I have to preface this, but this is only my understanding. It could 100% be wrong. And it's not something that I use with clients. So I'm a little bit out of my depth on this one, but for me, it's, you use it, you can inject it into a specific muscle and it creates inflammation and it kind of fills out a specific area. So a lot of people use it like on smaller muscle groups. So I believe that question there was asking if, is it, what are my thoughts on somebody using it and to fill out a muscle, whether it's glutes or whether it's rear delts or biceps or whatever it is.
Glutes. Glutes.
So again, like my in-depth knowledge of that particular supplement's not going to be over the top high, because I just haven't had experience using it with clients. But from my understanding, that's what it does. And, it is used quite commonly. But, my answer to that question is going to be the same. It's going to be, nobody's cheating because it's an untested federation. So if somebody wants to do it, then, let them do it. If it helps them, great. I don't think that there's people that take multitudes of enhancements for shows. So, if it helps them, great. They're not breaking any rules, so I can't really say it's a negative.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm going to choose you to answer a question for me when it comes to the PED world. So after 102 podcasts, maybe more actually, I'm going to ask you, I want to know women and PEDs. Because I've never really sat and asked the girls. Guys are very open. Guys are extremely open. Some girls can be open. But in this sport, to what level is it not only the open women, but right down to levels of bikini? What are most women or competing taking, or the PED world? Like, is there, like, are we, because I think firstly, that we just also, disclaim this. I'm seeing a lot of young men who aren't even competing taking steroids, which is astonishing. And when I think about these 20-year-olds, at 20 years old, I just thought about, which I love bodybuilding, but I thought about getting married and having children, and I wanted testosterone. I wanted to be fertile. I'm not saying they're not going to be, but I just didn't really want to play with fire. What's going on with women and competing? And you just can't imagine that it's needed, but it is. But can you tell me a little bit about what's going on out there?
Yeah, I mean, divisions are getting more muscular these days.
They are.
Yeah, and I think you'll be at the top level in bikini. You're going to be hard pressed to find, and it's not that they don't. There is still a lot of natural athletes in it that are structurally very good.
Yeah.
But I'd say it's probably more common for females to be using enhancements than not using enhancements at the elite level. Even in bikini now, but bikini is becoming a far more muscular division. So I think, there's going to get to a point where, if you want to get to the top level, and then, it may be something that could be required. Definitely doesn't have to be done by any means. And, for a lot of people, I would suggest don't. But, for those divisions, you're generally seeing more females at the higher levels of bikini that are enhanced than not enhanced.
Are they playing with fire?
Yeah. I mean, look, at no time is taking a performance enhancing drug going to be healthy. You know, so it always comes down to the risk versus the rewards for people. And I think, you know, that's a personal choice. But, you know, the answer to that question is, you know, yes, they are. You know, there's always going to be negative effects to it. But it comes down to personal choice of what they see as the risk versus what they see as the reward. You know, and then that's up to the athlete to make that decision. You know, most of the time, like I say, like in the bodybuilding world, it's just about, you know, educating the client and giving them your opinion, and then, you know, letting them make that decision, because we're at a point right now where, you know, if there's a lot of people that are, you know, taking enhancements, they're going to do it regardless. You know, and then sometimes you get to a point where it's like, you know, it can be done safely or it can be done, you know, poorly. And, you know, there's times where they're going to do it anyway. So, you know, it's a really interesting and open topic right now. But I think, you know, from a realistic point of view, it's going to come down to the risk to reward ratio for that particular athlete. And then what they, you know, making sure that they have the right education and then letting them make the decision on what they want to do. But yeah, playing with fire, it's, you know, there's always going to be negative effects to taking, you know, PEDs.
Yeah.
For anyone.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, look, it's even, this question could be for the guys, but I guess I'm not, you know, like I said, maybe I'm just being a narrow-minded bloke, but, you know, at the same time, you know, it's not that you don't believe what they're taking. It's sometimes hearing people talking about the extent. I would not know, so I don't even know what they're taking. I don't really pose into those questions deeply. I feel like I can't really. In some ways, it's still guys will tell you everything. It doesn't matter. They'll tell you whatever they want, because I think it's an open book now, but I think they haven't opened the book yet on women. I don't think they've opened the book completely yet. But the thing is, are you finding, again, still on topic, but are you finding more people? What federations are you seeing growing? Are you seeing, like, I keep, you know, you keep hearing it on social media, our federation is growing amazingly. Oh my God, we're the number one federation. Oh my God, record numbers. But are you seeing what's growing? Do you think is the natural environment growing like exponentially? Because I think, and I feel it is, but I just thought I'd ask you.
Yeah, it is. I think bodybuilding as a whole is growing.
Yeah, but what I'm asking is it to the tested or untested? That's what I'm saying. What's growing quicker?
So both, honestly. Okay. Like there's more federations in the natural federations.
Yep. Oh, there is. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, there's definitely more. There's so many options for people, and you know, each one of them is getting, you know, large numbers into their shows, which is amazing. And then, you know, NPC in Australia, which is the primary federation for untested bodybuilders, you know, and that's getting bigger every season. And, you know, you're seeing on social media, like I guess the viewership of it and things like that, and the hype around it is getting, you know, bigger and bigger and bigger. The standard, like if you look at the NPC standard in Australia from now until 10 years ago, like it's insane.
It's
like
insane.
Absolutely mind-blowing how good it is now. Yeah, so I think bodybuilding as a whole is growing. Like I don't think you could say like one's growing more than the other, because, you know, we're getting we are like literally, when you're going to shows, we're getting record numbers in every single federation. And I go to, you know, majority of the shows, whether they're natural or untested, or tested or untested, and every single show is getting bigger. Like there's just, and the standard is getting higher. Like Australia's standard in bodybuilding, regardless of what federation it is improving. So it's really cool to see. Like if we looked at, you know, 10 years ago, the competitors that are now coming, you know, 6th, 7th, and 8th are, you know, they would have easily won 10 years ago, all of them. Like it's just with, you know, being more popularized, we're getting more, you know, potentially amazing athletes being interested in the sport. We're getting better coaching. just because there's more interest in things. We're getting better education around stuff, and it's just turning into, it's turning it. Bodybuilding is just on the rise, and I think a lot of it's to do with social media and whatnot. But it's hard to say which one is growing more because they're both just skyrocketing, which is awesome.
Yeah, I've noticed that. I was looking at competing in 2019, and even then, the standard was not bad,
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, it was incredible in 2019. But then, and it was, but after COVID, I think the first year after COVID looked pretty good. Like you could see it already improved. But the year after that, it just went poof, went through the roof. I think everybody just turned up.
Yeah.
And I think some people say, I think it was the time down to grow.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, if you were at the NPC Nationals that was just held in Melbourne a couple of weeks ago,
I wish I was there. Yeah,
they had the bikini overall, and there was 5 girls on stage, and literally like every one of those girls was at pro level.
Wow.
Like, yeah, like it would have sucked for the judges because it's like, shit. Like, I wish we could give every one of these girls deserves to be a pro athlete, and it's just like that's how it is now. Now it's just getting better and better and better. And, there's girls that are just, guys as well that are just absolutely incredible. So it's cool to see. It makes it, from a spectator's point of view, it makes it a far more exciting product to watch. And then from a coach's point of view, like you have to constantly be upskilling to be able to bring, people in the right condition, bringing up muscles in the off season, like we were talking about earlier, and things like that. And it's like, if you don't, you'll just get left behind. So I think as a whole, it's awesome. Like, I love it. We're in such a good time right now for bodybuilding in Australia.
Do you get nervous, anxious as you're bringing somebody in to the game? Like, do you sometimes, because you're the one bringing this person in they're trusting you. Do you get as well some of the anxiety, some of the pressure, some of the, like the spotlight's on you because you want to produce a winner?
Yeah. I mean, look, when athletes win, it's definitely better for business. There's no question about that. But yeah, look, I mean, for me as a coach, like I have this, I literally posted this morning, which is about like coaches or conductors. So, our back is to the crowd, it's about the athlete. So, I get anxious because I want the athlete to come in as close to their full potential as possible.
Yeah.
Probably more so than anything else. And I just want to make sure that I get it right for them. But yeah, I mean, like I would say it's less about being anxious and more about being excited. Because it's you're there with the athlete the whole process. So, you're going to be as anxious and as excited as them. But as a coach, you got to be composed as hell. Like they're going to be putting pressure on themselves. They've got self-doubt on themselves. So, you have to be the kind of the other side of the pendulum that's, balancing them back out into the middle. Because if you're both, quite stressed, then it's going to be a little bit of a rocky road for the athlete coming into the show. But yeah, you definitely do. And I think I get more anxious about, I want them to have a good experience and I want them to be at their best. And, constantly ask myself if I've done everything I can possibly do to help them get to their best. But yeah, okay, there's always that element, but I think it's more, excitement because you've gone through the process with them.
No, I love that. That's great. In bodybuilding, you had another stories, question and answers yesterday. Let's talk about this one.
There's a few of them yesterday.
Oh yeah, no, I couldn't do them all, man. We'll just be doing your questions and answers, man. We wouldn't find out about you. In bodybuilding, coaching can be as much about control as it is about guidance. How do you navigate the toxicity that arises between coaches, egos, tactics? And how does it impact you when your athlete doesn't place? And you answered, you have a choice to get involved yourself in it or not. Your responsibility is to bring your athlete in at their full potential and give them a positive experience. If you do a good if you do good work with clients and eliminate distractions and focus energy on what you do, you'll find a lot of that stuff actually goes away.
Yeah, I think, just, I guess, to reiterate on that is, it's, there can be a lot of egos involved, and, but that's the same in everything. But I think, you gotta, same thing in like professional sport. You've got to be really good at eliminating outside noise and just simplifying the process and doing what you can do best. And again, like controlling what you can control, which is something that you'll pretty regularly hear me talk about on social media. But, it's like, are you as an athlete coming in at your very best? Yes. Has the coach, me as a coach, have I done everything to my best ability to get you on stage? Yes. Well, then like everything else is just going to be a distraction. Like it doesn't fucking matter. And you just got to be really good at, eliminating that, I think. And then, it's not going to be, as big of an issue. But I think in saying that, a lot of it comes down to how you deal with the athlete leading into the show. Things, obvious things like telling clients that you think they're going to win, like this, just don't promise things that aren't in your control. And that does still happen quite a lot, or you're going to beat XYZ or whatever, and it's like, if you don't, it can lead to feelings of the athlete feeling like a failure because the coach has told them something that they're going to do, and then they haven't done it. So I always sort of like with my coaching, it's like I'm not going to promise anything that's not in our control, because like placings and things like that. So I think it does just come down to just simplifying your processes and just driving all your energy into what you can control. Because, if you start getting into the comparisons and the he said, she said, and yada, yada, and all those sort of things, it can take away much needed energy that you're going to, you probably don't have a lot of energy leading into the show anyway, dieting and training and whatnot. So it's like, let's just not use that mental energy on other things and let's put it into making us our best. And that's going to give us the best chance to place. So I think it's really important to, as a coach, to keep your athlete in that mindset, because if they're not, then, it can cause issues physically on them, like changing their physique, mental stress and all those sort of things, and just make them not have a good experience, which is, at the end of the day, for 99% of people, bodybuilding is a hobby. So you want to make sure they have fun with it and they come back and keep doing it.
Yeah. I mean, you guys are really obviously getting in quite close and quite connected and forming a bond, which, there can be happiness and sadness in that relationship, especially when you're coming towards a comp and also after the comp itself and everyone's expectations and the debrief after it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And possibly, I guess dealing with just like the personalities that are on stage. I guess you got the personalities of coaches. So you got the coaches, obviously knowing there's certain type of coaches down on the floor next to you or around you, which, you either get on or you don't get on, or you like their practices or you don't. I mean, that's sport. That's the beautiful thing about sport.
It happens in business. It happens in sport. It happens, it's just part of navigating.
No kumbaya here, mate. No kumbaya. No,
it's part of navigating social, the social world. It is what it is. It doesn't matter where you go. If you're working in an accountant's office, if you're doing professional sport, if you're a teacher or wherever it is, it's going to be the same thing everywhere. So, but the rules don't change. It's, if you where your energy goes, that's where everything flows. So it's, if you're keeping your energy on what you can control with you and the athlete, then so be it. If you're not, then your energy is going to go the other way, and it can be a little nasty sometimes. So it's better just to recognize that you're just doing your job and do your job to the best of your abilities, and have your client do the job to their best abilities, and see what happens. And usually you end up having a pretty good experience.
Like I said, I don't know. It's definitely quite the job. I can see the focus, especially, I think, especially when you've got cross sexes. Like there seems to be a lot of male coaches training females, but there's not a lot of females training male coaches, if that makes female coaches training male bodybuilders. I'm not saying they don't get me wrong, but what I'm saying is your game is, they're definitely two sexes, treat them very differently sometimes, as much as they are bodybuilders on stage. There's a lot of things going on, so you just have to be very professional, I guess, and get your athlete in the best health as possible. Now, I get it. It's quite a job. Like I said, quite a job. We'll go to your post. What are your latest posts, mate? 21st of the 6th, 20. Oh, no, that's not a latest post. That's one of your pinned. Yeah, I'm going to wonder why you've got that pinned. That's right. Imitators get frustrated when asked. I think it's, Imitators get frustrated when asked for clarification as maintaining their appearance or expertise in their primary concerns, while experts welcome question and are eager to share their knowledge, appreciating genuine curiosity. In the world of coaching, especially online, it is important to understand the difference between experts and imitators who can speak only on face value. True expertise is not just knowing the answers, but understanding the depth and breadth of subject. I haven't heard the word breadth for a while.
Yeah, I love that quote. That's one of my favorite quotes.
By Dan Pfft.
Yeah, Dan Pfaff. Yeah,
that's the one. Pfaff.
I'll be honest with you, man. That post right there, like, I had wanted to update my pin posts. I got that photo from a podcast, and then when I was that quote came out on an email list, and it really resonated with me. And when I read that, it was, there's a lot of, like, I guess, people that, coach because they love bodybuilding themselves, or they love coaching, they love the sport themselves, that probably don't have as in-depth of knowledge as what they would require. And I mean, you'd see that a lot on social media too. So I just thought it was a really cool quote. Like, there's not going to be too much in depth to that one. That was just something that kind of stood out to me, that quote. So I just dumped that on the caption because I didn't have anything else to write on it. But yeah, I like it. I think it's a very relative quote to the fitness industry, with having such low, I guess, benchmark entry levels to be a trainer or a coach. And I just thought it's quite suitable. I liked it.
What about the other post where, contrary to belief, you do actually train? And and not some little out of shape guy who just coaches. The thing is, I don't post selfies every day because I want my value on social media to come from helping people improve their lives, not about me. So you do train, do you?
Yeah. I must have been having a bad day when I posted that.
Well, it's pinned, buddy. It's been a bad day for a long time. It's been pinned.
That might have been pinned about 6 years ago.
Yeah, 2022, mate. 2022.
Yeah, 22. Yeah. So, I mean, coaching in the bodybuilding world and not being a competitive bodybuilder. I think nowadays, because I've had time and experience and built up quite a good track record, it doesn't happen nearly as much anymore. But I definitely, 7-8 years ago, used to get you don't look like a bodybuilder, so you don't know anything about bodybuilding. Like, why would I listen to you? Yada, yada, rest of things. And like, I get it. It's fine. I think it used to bother me a lot more than it bothered me now. So back then I was probably just having a little rant. Maybe someone had said something to me that day or something like that. But yeah, look, I think it's, I'm a lot more confident now in my ability. I've always been confident in my ability, but I think, less people say that to me now just because of my track record. But, I did used to get that quite a lot. I did used to have people saying to me, I'm not coaching with him. He doesn't look like a bodybuilder, or, whatever it is. Which, again, I get it. There's definitely a level of experience being on stage that is very helpful for a coach to have when coaching an athlete. And, I don't have that because I've never competed myself. But, I'm also somebody that's, I've trained for body composition for a pretty good deal in my life. You know, and I still have, you know, quite a large amount of experience with what we're doing, as well as, you know, dealing with different clients and things like that. So yeah, I mean, I probably was just having a bad day that day. Someone probably said something to me back a few years ago, and I just decided to dump that line in a little bit. But
I know, I see your point. I know,
yeah,
if someone says, I think sometimes if someone not so much questions me, but questions, you know, what a bodybuilder's like, I always tell them, I'll see you in a couple of decades. Let's see if you're still training, buddy. Because only because I have that. I'm 56 years old, but what I'm getting at is, let's see how much you love the sport. Let me see you do a decade in, decade out. Like, treat it that it's part of your shower and part of brushing your teeth, and that you've taken time off and possibly taken a couple of years off, or taken 6 months off because you just, but you keep turning back because you know that's what you need. That's where you find solitude, you know, peace. Can I ask, and I've asked no one this question, I think Chris might like this question too, me asking it. What do you think of AI and IE being a personal trainer?
Yeah,
I feel like I'm using AI for so many things myself at the moment. I haven't yet completely used it to write my scripts. It never has. I've not used it not at all, but I guess I can be a very qualified personal trainer if I just use AI.
I mean,
hear me, like, you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah. So here's my whole thing with coaching, right?
Yeah.
You'll get me on a rant here.
Go for it.
Yeah. My whole thing with coaching is,
if you want to throw the camera to one side and you stomp and punch the wall down like some rock and roll wrestler, it will help our ratings. I'm just letting you know.
It will help your ratings. There you go. Yeah, look, I think I think coaching, regardless if you're a school teacher, whether you're a bodybuilding coach, whether you're a group fitness instructor, whatever it is, okay, it's a very personable job. And I have a lot of my social media is driven towards this nowadays. And I think if coaching was just about the training program and the diet, none of us would have a job anymore, because apps would take over. And AI is coming in, and you know, it's getting better and better very quickly. And I think it's a good thing for trainers, because a lot of the skills that AI is going to be able to work with are, you know, things like writing a meal plan, things like putting together a training program or something like that. But for me, coaching's always been about getting the most out of someone. And then the training and the diet are tools that we use to help get them there. So AI won't be able to have that personable, you know, connection with the client. So I think coaches need to be very, very good with that. And I think the coaches that aren't very personable with athletes, they're just sort of sending macros and a diet and a training program and see you later, they're going to be in a little bit of trouble. But I think, you know, the coaches that are, you know, working closely with the client, trying to understand their personable needs, how their emotions work, you know, maybe physically this is a good option, but psychologically it might not be. You know, which are really common situations in the coaching client sort of relationship. That stuff's not going to be replaced. So I think for coaches, like, using AI to your advantage to help maybe take some of the load off of some of the stuff that AI can do very, very well, and potentially better than coaches can, but then working with it and using it to help so that you can spend more personable time with the client and try to help them. And I think it's actually going to be a good thing for good coaches. I think it's going to be great. But I think if you're a coach that's not, you know, doing too much in terms of like connection between the coach and athlete, I think, you know, you're going to get exposed and you're not going to be needed. But yeah, it's interesting. It's going to be really, the scope of online training is going to change in the next 5 years quite a lot. And I just think, for me personally, I think it's like the soft skills and the relationships and connection and stuff like that is going to become far more important than necessarily like the training and diet, because that will be able to be taken over. It's going to be about knowing them and then applying, you know, what the best process is for that individual human being with their, how they are mentally and emotionally, or psychologically, I should say. So it's going to be really interesting, but I think it's a good thing.
Well, I think the first person that gets Siri as a client, that's your chance. Just name the game. Get Siri as your client. Get Siri as your client. If you can get Siri or Alexa, get Alexa, or Google. If you can get any of those things to be one of your clients and have that up on your social media page that you say, I am Siri's personal trainer. That's to the bank. You're good to go. But I just feel like I was just imagining, because I've never asked this question. Today I was just thinking about it. I could just imagine, like people having a personal trainer on their phone and the personal trainer goes, come on, Julie, give us another 5. And, or I don't know. I mean, or Brian, come on, Brian, you could do it. And make sure when you go home, 1 milligram tren, make sure we take it tonight, and have a reminder on your phone, like just what AI could probably do is scary. Like, think about it. Like, even, like imagine the gym turns around and decides we've got no PT trainers. You could just plug into our PTs inside AI. Like, it just dawned on me today. Like, now this question, I haven't been thinking about it, but man, it's amazing where AI could take this.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy. But yeah, I think, AI will never be able to replicate human connection. Well, not yet anyway.
Well, let me tell you, mate, there are people falling in love with AI.
Yeah,
literally. It's a truth. And it will, you know what? I spoke with Chris. We could talk a bit off topic, but I really think it's possible. And the reason I know it's possible is because everyone now is longing, like, they're not like, without saying it, they're not like you and me and maybe Chris that can have human connection, but there are introverts, people that find it hard, even extroverts that can't singularly connect with people. But if they can produce something, and intimacy can be anything these days, and we could dumb down intimacy as much as you like, but the way things are looking at the moment, people are falling in love with AI. Let me tell you, in some of the, like I said, apps that are out there, or dating apps, or you name it, like, it's crazy. And because they are making them feel a certain way, important, I don't know, maybe they become better workers. Maybe they become better people. I don't know, because somebody is reassuring that they're going to be there. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it could be. It's scary to think about, like, what it's going to end up being down the track. But, from a coaching point of view, I think, where we're sitting at right now, I think, the coaches that are great with developing relationships with their client and, developing like a close connection to have the athlete feel trust and whatnot, then I think, they're the ones that are going to be using AI to their benefit with coaching. But yeah, like I said, the ones that are just, here's a training program, here's your diet, see you later, I think right now they're very replaceable for 1/50th of the price.
It's funny. I'm just thinking to myself, you're at home and you're cooking dinner and you're going to have the family over, and you say, my son's name's Yanni. And I say to my partner, is the Wi-Fi working? Because Yanni's bringing his girlfriend over. She's AI. She wants to come to dinner. Make sure the Wi-Fi is working. You know?
Hey, it's not out of the question.
That's hilarious. Like, can you imagine, Chris? Chris is coming over for some drinks. He's bringing over his girlfriend. Make sure the Wi-Fi is up.
It's not out of the question.
Oh my God. Watching, do you follow like the rugby league or soccer? What do you follow?
Basketball and
all right.
AFL.
Imagine going, hey, guys, we're watching through the window and you're chanting, like you're screaming, and you've got 5 screens going and it's all your AI mates watching the basketball.
It's not out of the question.
It's actually the same thing of people doing posts. You sit there acting like you're doing something. Yeah. Oh my God. This is going to be funny. This world's going to turn into something very funny. Where am I going to go with now? Because we've been talking quite a bit and I've enjoyed it. I want to go to, well, you know what? I'm going to not to get off the quotes. I'm going to ask, why is your social media page full of so many quotes, phrases? Why? Like, where do you find them? Are you a book reader? It's your page is not your average page. Obviously, you're building on, let's call it, the metrics that you feel people are engaging in and working with. Why is your page full of so much information?
Because it's what I like.
And what do you like? What is it you like? Are you like reading books? What are you personally?
Yeah, I do. I read quite a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of the study that I do isn't necessarily from the fitness industry. I learn a lot from sporting coaches and things like that, because I think they're phenomenal at establishing relationships with elite level athletes, which I think is something that maybe is a little bit lacking in the fitness industry. So for me, I have always sort of gravitated and enjoyed that aspect. So a lot of my posts are, I mean, I'll be honest, like I say this all the time, and they say like, oh, the black squares get shared so much. And it's like, it's just, I try to post every day or every couple of days, and I don't have time to make reels and do all that stuff. So, this is a way that's, I've been able to connect with my following quite well, and it's quick and it's easy for me. A lot of the time it may be a quote that I've read from a book, it may be just my thoughts that I'm just ranting out. But yeah, look, in terms of it, like I've always been quite a good writer, so and I was always taught to play to your strengths. So if I'm on social media, I'm not going to be able to compete with the big jacked up influencer guys. So for me, it's I know I can communicate quite well and I can write quite well, so I just sort of play to my strengths, and it's worked. And it's I've got great engagement. I think most of my posts will get between anywhere from 200 to 5,000 shares. So it works really well from a business point of view, and people are engaged with it, which is obviously the most important thing. It's just a little bit different. So I don't think I talk about things that are overly different to other people. I just deliver it in a different way, just in a way that I'm comfortable with, which is writing.
Yeah, no, I noticed that. And like you said, I can understand why. And that's totally, I think it's a standout, to be honest. I think, I think whether you like it or not, whether you think it's, whatever it is, there's a reason. I can see the reason, and if it works and it's working, keep doing it. But you've traveled a bit. I've noticed on your highlights, you've been to Spain, London, Dubai, Vegas, Japan, Singapore, India, and in some aspects.
That was last year too. That was just last year.
Just last year. What were you doing?
So what do we do? We went to. I try to go with my clients to bodybuilding shows.
Oh.
So I had one of my clients who's actually one of my closest friends, Catherine, who's an IFBB pro bikini. We kind of had a road trip last year where we went to go get try to do as many shows as we could, and just have really good experiences and see if she could win a pro card. She was almost there. So we did the Amateur Olympia in Las Vegas. We did Spain. I didn't make it to Italy and Portugal, but she did. We did Japan. I judged in India. I judged in Dubai. What else do we do? Yeah, just everywhere. It's fun though.
Yeah, I mean, when you say you judged, did you know you were going to be judging, or did it just happen when you got there?
No, I knew. So I went to Dubai and I went to India to judge, and then the other ones were for clients and different shows. And
wow,
yeah, so it was cool. That was all just last year.
Man, what a top year.
Yeah, it was. I learned so much about coaching last year, just through experience, which was really cool. So yeah, very, very lucky to be able to do that.
Well, we've got here talking about clients, Jackie Watts, the return process over outcome. And the post was recent IFBB Pro League Perth show, and you wrote in that post, because she wrote the return process over outcome, and your comment was, you did a great job. Your environment is tough to prep in, but you got it done like a boss. I'm
Mm-hmm.
proud of you. Now go again. What was tough?
What was tough for her? Well, she's
She looked
single
amazing.
mom.
Single mom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's absolutely incredible. Single mom, kids, animals. She was doing school runs. She's doing extracurricular sport where she's still having to fit in all of her training, cardio, which are environments that'll make it tough to do bodybuilding. But she is truly an elite athlete, mentality wise, and she got everything done, organized herself, and there are people that had far less activities in life that got to the stage, whereas Jackie's was, I don't know a lot of people that would be able to make it to the stage and do it with such, I guess, enthusiasm as she did. So she handled everything really well, and yeah, I'm really proud of her. She did so good. She did the Sydney State Show, not the Perth one. She was in Sydney.
Oh, was she in Sydney? Right. Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Sydney. Yeah. So I flew over there.
Oh, she's a Sydney girl, is she?
She is Central Coast.
Oh, Central Coast. Yeah, that's why I don't see her.
Yeah. So yeah, she was incredible, like absolutely amazing. Like it was, her life environment is probably contradictory to being in a bodybuilding preparation. But she crushed it, like amazing. Like it was really cool to see. So yeah, I was so proud of her.
She kind of got close, didn't she, to the Pro Cup? Probably won away, wasn't it? Was it?
Yeah, she came second.
Caitlin McGuinness got it, yeah?
Yes, so Caitlin won. Jackie won the state show in New South Wales.
Yeah,
and then 2 weeks later, we came back and she finished second to Caitlin in the open class.
Caitlin's done amazing. I've had her on the podcast, but going from whatever it was called, WBFA, to getting a pro card there, to literally coming over to, like, what transformation she did.
You know what's funny about that is both Jackie and Caitlin were both FMG pros.
Wow. Yeah. Well,
so both of them did amazing.
They did amazing, and they did come in fuller, more masculine, wonderful. But yeah. I just Caitlin.
They're both awesome people too.
Yeah, so. Caitlin she shocked me because she went from, I mean, a certain look what FMG has, but then taking it to that level to take a pro card is like takeover stuff. Talking about takeover, I think this was a pinned post or up there at the top of your 23rd of the 4th, 2025. Yes. You posted Tokyo, Japan. This is you at Tokyo, Japan, and you wrote,
yep.
Sometimes in life, when you're climbing to new levels, moving to bigger things, you have self-doubt, imposter syndrome. Do I really deserve to be in these circle? Am I overrated? Do I believe what people say about me? Can I actually provide what people think I can? All the questions you find yourself asking, you have to look back and find confidence in the work you've done, just to remind yourself who the fuck you are, why you're actually capable of. Yeah, that's
love it.
Yeah, I loved it too. Yeah. I was writing that at 11 o'clock at night. I had to calm down to go to sleep, and it was.
Yeah. So yeah, with that, I mean, like I still coach a lot of professional basketball players in the gym. And we always have conversations about the mental performance side of things, and I've got some close friends that are like performance psychologists and whatnot. We always sort of have conversations on how to get the most out of people, which is a recurring theme you'll find with myself and coaching. And that was one of those things where the higher the level you get as an athlete or a coach or whatever it is, those thoughts are accepting those thoughts as being completely normal. Everybody has them. It's not, imposter syndrome is a completely normal thing. For self-doubt is a completely normal thing as you're elevating to new levels, whether it's you're an amateur and you become a pro, or, you get signed from a basketball team and it's like can you perform as good as everybody thinks you're going to perform? And, you're getting paid X amount of money. Is it going to be, are you actually worth it? And they're all common thoughts to have. And, I think one of the things that's really important for people to do is to, rather than ask those questions that you may not have a lot of control over, it's really important to sort of reverse engineer it to what you do have control over, and think back of what's gotten you to this place. So rather than looking at the staircase above you, look down at how far you've come, and then everything that you've done is what's led you to get to where you are. And it's something that you can take clarity in, because you've actually done it. And it's like, cool, you've done all these things, that's why you're here. Now it's time to take the next step. So for a lot of clients, that's sort of what we do, is try to reverse engineer that they're not there by accident, and people think so. It's a really good, I must have been very motivated that day. I can tell you now, like, that was written with passion.
I could
see the way that I wrote that. So
well, I hope I read it with justice.
No, it's great.
But have you watched the one, have you seen it on YouTube, Steve Jobs joining the dots?
No, I haven't watched it.
All right, go when we're done, go to YouTube and type in Steve Jobs and joining the dots. I think it's called that. And Steve Jobs says there's a reason you are where you are today. He talks about why he's doing what he's doing, and he talks about back in university and quitting whatever he was doing, and he did I'm going to do the word injustice, like a calligraphy. He liked doing nice letters. He liked writing neatly, nicely. He did a degree in that, which made him be a perfectionist to make sure like the letters on the Apple keyboard were perfect. So, but when you join the dots, it all makes sense where you come from to where you are today. So it's kind of like joining the dots. You can't help it when you join when you, like you said, looking down the staircase, wondering where you're at. Yeah, that's something.
Same concept.
Yeah, so have a look at it. It's pretty. I think it's very powerful. I think it's a great motivation thing to watch with Steve Jobs joining the dots.
Okay, I'll check that out.
I don't know if I'd be happy with myself at the moment, but let's just say for you, maybe you should watch it. So you played basketball growing up. Tell me, where did you grow up? You got a bit of an accent, childhood, teenagers. Yeah. What's your accent?
So my parents are from the U.S.
Yep.
So that's that. But I've lived most of my life in Australia, so that's the kind of mixed accent you're going to hear there. But yeah, look, I majority of my life I spent in Melbourne.
Yeah, well, that will give you an accent.
Yeah, and then I also lived small parts in Adelaide. I've lived for 10 or 11 years now in Perth. I spent a couple of years living in Indonesia. So I've been around. Lived in a few different places in the U.S. and so yeah, you kind of got a little bit of a mixed accent there. The older you get in my family, like my parents and my older brother, very American accents. Mine's kind of half, and then my younger brother sounds Australian. So
how old are you?
I will be 37 this year.
Fuck. You got a baby face, haven't you? You've always had a baby face. Yeah.
Yeah.
You look, honestly, mate, you look like you're 21, 22 years old.
I appreciate that. See, if you would have told me that when I was 21, I probably would have been offended, but now I'm definitely happy with hearing that.
All right. So you played basketball at a high level.
Yeah. So I play semi-professional.
How tall are you?
What the basketball sheet says, or what I actually say?
Whichever's the truth, whatever the truth is.
There's a funny thing with basketball, that what you're listed at on paper is usually 2 or 3 inches higher than what you actually are. So I was actually listed, I would have been 5'10" or 5'11", but I'm not. So I think I'm actually getting shorter as I get older. Yeah, probably 5'8".
Well, the only reason I say that is when I see you standing with your competitors, the bikini girls.
Yeah, I'm not that tall.
You just don't look like a basketballer. But then again,
I agree 100%.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's so funny. I mean, I guess it's harder for you, but because you love basketball and you're competitive, you're going to do good at it, and shorter people in basketball can excel and be greats. And I've seen it also in rugby league. Some of the fullbacks that are great fullbacks in rugby league, and they're literally short guys, but they take on the big guys, tackle them well. So I think it's all about technique, skill, and
I was not one of those people, unfortunately. Height hindered my career. Yeah. But that's okay. It is what it is. I mean, it's the same thing as bodybuilding, right? Like there's some people that just are desperate to be bodybuilders, but their genetically structure is not there that they're ever going to be an elite bodybuilder. It doesn't mean you can't get as good as you possibly can with it, but there is that element to all sport.
Well, you've got a post that talks about genetics, but then a hard workout does anybody that has genetics that doesn't work.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, like I said,
but when you start getting to the elite levels of basketball, they got both.
Yeah. So you follow, who do you follow in the basketball?
Well, for the NBA?
Yeah.
I don't really follow teams too much. They trade so much. Like, my family's from Ohio, so I right now I'm all on the Cleveland bandwagon because they're doing quite well. But I just enjoy watching it. Like, honestly, like nowadays, I just enjoy watching the game now. I'm not overly gonna pick one team that I'm gonna go for. In Australia, it's the Perth Wildcats through and through. But yeah. So outside of that, it'll be I guess you're gonna say Cleveland, but I like players, so I enjoy watching players more than the specific teams. So if there's a player I like on a team and they're playing, I'm probably gonna go for them.
So you've done a little bit of work with the AFL and basketball, correct?
Yeah.
What have you done for them?
Years ago. Yeah. So I worked in strength and conditioning. This was years ago. This would have been when I was first starting. I did a diploma in strength, sport development.
Yeah.
And our teacher was working in the AFL and working in the NBL. So I got to go in and do a bunch of work with them. Never paid positions or anything like that, but I got to go in and learn what it was all about and learn how to deal with elite athletes from a young age. So I was really lucky in that regard to be able to do that.
What's it like dealing with elite athletes? What are they like?
In terms of bodybuilding or in terms of sport?
No, sport. Like, what is it like? What I'm saying to you,
in sport, like from the strength and conditioning side, they'll get it done to the best of their abilities, but it's not the main thing that they enjoy doing. So,
what do they enjoy doing? What makes elite? But wait a minute. I want one word, in a sense, and then you can abbreviate a bit on it. But what is it that when you see in them, their eye, their attitude, their talk, they turn up to training, what is it that you go?
Let me give you 2 words.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, man. 3. I'll let you have 3.
Attitude and effort.
Attitude and effort. Oh.
So how they approach the 1%ers, I think you're going to find, whether this is bodybuilding, whether this is the sports world, they're competitive by nature.
Yeah.
So they want to excel and they want to get better, and they apply themselves to every aspect that they can get better in, and they want to do it. Like they see things as challenges, getting better. And this isn't just sport. This is, this is bodybuilding. This is anything in life. But those 2 things, like how, like, you were saying about being particular with the Steve Jobs stuff, is, that's how athletes are. It's like, if there's something that can give them an advantage to be better, they're going to approach it as a challenge. And then they come in to try to get as good as they humanly possibly can at it. And I think elite athletes, regardless if you're brand new or you're playing, in the AFL, NBL, you're a pro bodybuilder or whatever it might be, more often than not, the I guess attributes of those individuals that's how they work. They see everything as challenges, and they do whatever they can to get better.
Yeah, it's quite amazing. Coaching Gen Pop.
Yep.
Who's Gen Pop?
General population. So just people that.
I'm thinking Gen X, Gen Y. Who's the fuck Gen Pop?
Nah, just general population.
No, general population.
So the difference there, I mean, coaching the general population is always going to be about developing habits and developing skills. Whereas when you're dealing with professional athletes, Like I always have a thing that I say, like there's a difference between like developmental athletes and performance athletes. Like a performance athlete is they have all the habits down. You're just sort of creating progressions for them, and they don't need motivation. Like you tell them what to do, they're going to do it to get better, and it becomes more about the X's and O's, I guess, because they have everything else there. Whereas developmental athletes are, people that don't maybe necessarily enjoy going to the gym. Or you still have to teach them their skills. You still have to teach them maybe how to train hard, maybe how to track calories better, maybe, any of those things. Or it's like you have to, work with them to build habits that will set them up for sustainable, body composition and things like that maybe performance athletes already have. So I think when you approach general population versus, performance athletes versus developmental athletes, like you have to know who you're dealing with and things that are, work out what's most important to get that person to a result. Whereas, with these developmental athletes, like you're working on habits more than anything. You're working on that sort of stuff rather than working on the one percenters and the X's and O's that you're going to work with performance-based athletes.
So 15 years, what changes have you seen? What are the positives and negatives have you seen the sport to evolve into?
Bodybuilding?
What's that?
Do you mean bodybuilding?
Oh, yeah, coaching, bodybuilding, of course.
Oh, just coaching in general. Yeah.
Well, PT in general, bodybuilding. I suppose this is a bodybuilding show, so this is basically the question. But 15 years, maybe more, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. What changes, positive and negative, have you seen the sport evolve into?
Our access to information is far better than it used to be.
Of course, yes.
So we have far better access to information. I'm sure that's in 15 years' time. I'm going to say that again. But we have far better access to information. So we're able to do things in a much a better way, I guess. Like our processes of getting people results are far better now than what they were 15 years ago, for sure. And just the ability to have access to information. You used to have to pay thousands and thousands of dollars and travel to go to workshops from specific people, whereas now, with online courses and things like that, and people able to network a lot better through social media, you'll find that our access to information and for coaching is a lot better. So I think coaching as a whole has improved. So I think that's been the main one. I think from a business point of view, online coaching has helped us, whereas 15 years ago, you were stuck in, your marketing went as far as like the grocery store, the supplement shop, and the gym that you're in. So from a business point of view, coaching, we have a lot more access to people, so we can build our businesses a lot bigger than previously, which is great. And that's a really good thing as well. I think they're probably the two main things that have changed. For the good. There's always going to be cons with social media as well. But I think, from if you look at everything like as a whole, I think we're in such a better place now than where we were 15 years ago, which is, important for the industry.
And you're doing workshops on helping coaches do better at soft skills.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of your posts. Yeah. You've done a workshop in Perth. You've done one in Adelaide. Yeah. Is that what you're focusing on?
Yeah, I'm enjoying that. Like, I think, it's an area that's kind of untouched with coaching. Not a lot of people spend time on it. And it's an area where I've spent years and years trying to learn and perfect. And I also have the ability of, I'm in a position where I've worked with professional athletes in multiple disciplines, basketball, AFL, bodybuilding, whatever it might be. So I feel like I have a level of experience that I've dealt with, different forms of people. And I like to, take things from the sporting world that I can apply to the bodybuilding and coaching and fitness industry, which maybe aren't talked about too much. So I've got a workshop on soft skills, which is essentially just like how to communicate to clients, how to get the most out of them, how to, deal with them and things like that. So I've done one in Perth, which was a sellout. And I did one in Adelaide that, had 20 or 25 people come down to it, which was really amazing. So hopefully in the next, 6 months or whatnot, I can get over. I know Sydney, I'm going to look at doing Sydney soon. And then I'll have a look at Melbourne, I think in August. So so it'll be really cool. But it's really fun. I really enjoy speaking about that stuff. And I think that's the side of coaching that for me is like the most enjoyable, is just helping people get to their true potential. You know, and then finding a discipline, whether it's, you know, whatever sport it is, it's, you know, helping them, you know, get to that point, and just having the sport be the tools that we use to help a person get to where they want to get to. So it's a really fun workshop for me to do, because I get to, you know, pretty much have people just sit there and listen to me rant for 2.5 hours about all the stuff that, you know, I absolutely love about coaching. So, gotten good feedback so far. So hopefully when we go to the next, you know, the next few towns, we get the same thing, and see where it goes from there.
Sounds amazing. But obviously you still love one-on-one coaching. We talk about one-on-one, obviously in person, or what's one-on-one mean exactly?
Yeah. So just working closely with one person at a time. Like it's going to be, whether it's online, whether it's
online, yeah,
or in person. But I have Physique. We built a gym about 8 years ago, so we still have a private facility where I still do about 20 sessions per week. So yeah, so I still do about 20 sessions a week. So I really enjoy the in-person training as well. You know, I don't think I tried to give it up for a little while just to do online, and I just didn't enjoy it. You know, I still take great pleasure in being able to teach someone how to squat, or be able to go through technique or something like that.
I think that's very important.
Yeah. So like I'll, you know, whether it's in person or online, like I really enjoy, you know, helping someone to get the most out of themselves on an individual level, which is, you know, what I enjoy about coaching. So yeah, I do love doing that still, and I don't think that's something I'm ever going to stop doing.
Awesome. Before we go over the body and finish up shortly, what do you want to see from the industry you're in, and what influence do you want to have to be known for?
That's a great question.
Thanks, mate. Left it to the end.
What I want to, I'm really happy with how the industry's like. There's always going to be cons to it, right?
Yeah.
Like, but you can't have pros without cons at the end of the day. So where the industry is sitting right now, from my perspective, is it's moving in the right direction. Like we have more demographic of clients to work with. More people are getting into the gym and getting, you know, excited by the gym. The level of education is getting better. So trainers are getting more, you know, knowledgeable, so that they can help clients to achieve better results. From the bodybuilding world, the industry is growing rapidly. You know, and you know, that's helping everyone's business, but it's also, you know, clients are, you know, getting to see their results that they want to get to. So really happy in that regard. I think like if there was anything, it would just be more about like the personable side, like making sure, you know, the soft skills, making sure people are still not just getting too technical all the time with exercise and diet, but also remembering that coaching is a personable service, and just, you know, making sure that they're doing a great job of not just handing people numbers, but making people feel good, and people excited and motivated to continue to get better. You know, and I think that's really important. And I think it's getting better. Like it's not necessarily a con. I think it's getting better. But I think if I would want to see something, it's people driving that into, you know, their businesses and the way they coach people and whatnot. And I think that's really important. But yeah, look, I think it's you know, there's always going to be some cons, but I think, you know, at the same time, like the industry is moving in a really great way at the moment.
What do you want to be known for?
What do I want to be known for? Excuse me. There's a quote that I love. And it's about like, people aren't going to remember what you do, but they're going to remember how you made them feel. And that's a really big quote for me. And it's like, I just want people that have come through and had the experience of working with me on whatever level to have a positive experience in dealing with me. You know, I want it to be about, you know, I helped them in some way, shape, or form to be a better athlete or to be a better coach. And as long as I can do that, then I've done my place in the industry. You know, I'm not going to sit here and try to be some, you know, super famous, crazy person or whatnot on social media or anything like that. But, you know, for me, it's like, the most important person to me is the person that's in front of me. And if I can help that person enough times and have them leave having a really good experience and being able to say, like, I became better, I got closer to my potential because of something Richard did or something that Richard said or whatnot, then that's going to be the most important thing for me. So I think when it all comes down to it, it's going to be that. It's just helping people, you know, feel like they got better after doing having any type of interaction with me, whether it's social media, whether it's in-person coaching, whether it's a seminar, or just coming and saying hi to me at a bodybuilding show. I think that's really, really important for me. And I think if I can do that, you know, I'll be happy that I've left this industry with leaving a positive mark on it.
Very good, very good. Well, let's go over the body, being that you're a coach. We usually finish up with just the whole body. I'll go over it quickly. It's one exercise, sets and reps. So just one exercise, and just sets and reps. Very simple, okay?
Yep.
And whether you train it or not, and it could be you training it for yourself or client, doesn't really matter.
Yep.
Traps.
Say that last word again.
Traps.
Traps?
Yeah, traps.
Oh, traps. Kelso shrug.
Yeah, sets, reps.
3 sets of 8.
3 sets of 8.
Standard number.
Del, yeah, if you can say that's going to be throughout all of it, you can say that and we'll just keep going. But delts, side delts.
Cuffed cable lateral raises.
Sets, reps.
3 sets of 12.
All right. Rear delts.
Incline rear delt rows, because we'll get a little bit of back out of that too.
Incline, okay. Sets and reps.
The compounds, we'll go 3 sets of 8.
Okay. Front delts.
Front delts. We're gonna go through every muscle because I can program this. I'll go front delt raise.
Sets and reps.
3 sets of 12.
All right. Back. Just a back exercise. I know there's a lot there, but one.
I'm going to go with a T-bar row.
Oh, T-bar row. Yeah, okay. And sets and reps?
3 sets of 6 to 8.
Ooh, going heavy. Got it. Chest. Again, one exercise. There's plenty there, I know.
Flat dumbbell press.
I always love when people go flat and don't always call the incline. Sets and reps?
3 sets of 6 to 8.
Okay, again, yeah, heavy. Bicep?
Incline dumbbell curls.
Incline dumbbell curls. Yep. Sets, reps?
3 sets, 10 to 12.
Tricep?
I'm going to go close grip bench press.
Oh yeah, I know that. Sets, reps.
I love that exercise.
Yeah, it's a good. It's a good exercise. Yeah, it is a good, especially when you get good momentum going.
Yeah, I do it with a Smith machine though. I'll take it one for the Smith machine. Close grip bench.
Yep. Okay. Yep.
3 sets, probably 8 to 10.
Again, not that something people train so much, but I have watched a few bodybuilders recently, and in the past it was a big thing. Forearms.
Zoderman curls.
What are Zoderman curls?
It's like a bicep curl, but you curl up supinated and then you go to pronated.
Oh, okay.
Control down. I'm just trying to think because we can get some bicep in that as well.
Yeah. Sets, reps.
3 sets of 12.
Abs.
Oh, cable crunchers.
Sets, reps.
3 sets of 12.
Yep. Quads.
Whoa. Favorite quad exercise, probably like the squat press, leg press.
Oh yeah, leg press. Yeah, sets.
Like
reps.
the Cybex leg press, I think is what I go with. I'd go anywhere there, 10 to 15.
Okay, hammies.
Whoa. It's either going to be, if it's just hamstrings, I'm going seated hamstring curl.
Sets and reps.
12 to 15, 3 sets.
Okay. Glutes.
Probably hip thrust. I would have to go hip thrust.
Yep. Sets and reps.
You can do that anywhere 8 to 12. You can go higher, but 8 to 12 is
how
probably
many
the sweet
sets?
spot. 3.
Yep. Calves?
Standing calf press. 3 sets. God, I hate that exercise. 8 to 12.
That's all. Just because, again, I don't know why. Tibialis.
Tibialis. What's the tib raise machine you can get? These over toes guys does it. Yeah, the tibialis raise. Yeah, which is good. If we're training that, if we're working on that, that's a good exercise.
What, 3 sets of 12?
Yeah, 12, 15. Yeah.
All right. Richard, where can we find you? Promote yourself. Time to name it.
So my Instagram is Richard_physique code. I do most of my work on that. You'll see me posting daily. I post a lot of the stuff that we've spoken about today has gone up on there. The Physique Code has its own account as well. So just at Physique Code, where we post a lot of the sort of highlights of client results and things like that. But most of the time you come grab me on that Instagram account. And if you like what you see, have a follow. If you got any questions, send me a message.
Well, mate, I know I've been watching you from far. I've been a bit of a fan, just seeing the clients and your professionalism and doing what you're doing. So I just want to say thank you so much for giving me your time and coming on the podcast.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me.
It was cool.